Pata uhondo wa kipekee wa vipindi vya Are you ready to elevate your business game?
As long as you're earning something, there's always that opportunity to save. And you start with where you are.
Kama wewe ni mfanyabiashara, huwezi kaa bure, unajipanga taratibu vile inavyofaa.
Join us each week as we dive into the stories of the world's most driven entrepreneurs.
When you pay attention to detail,
A very good morning, bright, sunny morning in most parts of the country, not necessarily Nairobi. Still some drizzle coming from a very rainy weekend, but we're here to brighten up your week. This is a Morning Cafe. My name is Fred Indimuli. Karibu sana.
How hot is your coffee wherever you're watching Morning Cafe from? My name is Anne Odida. Karibu sana, and thank you so much for choosing us, of course, as always, to keep you updated even as you go about your day. All
right, this being 27th of January, it is actually the very last Monday of January 2025. Ule mwenye alisema January mekimbia hakudanganya. There's no other Monday, yes, but at least every other day of the week is equal.
Yeah.
Plus, it is the International Day of Commemoration in memory of the victims of the Holocaust. This is an international day in memory of the victims of the Holocaust. So the UN and other major international bodies will be observing this today. But back home, this is a big headline today, a screaming headline on front page of the Standard. Not our State House. And they have two images, very identical, with the president and a visiting dignitary facing the state, the main residence of the head of state. On one hand, the new one after renovation, and the one below. But I don't know, I don't understand. What's a big deal? And do you understand? What is a big deal?
Why change?
Nyumba bado iko hapo.
What is it?
It is still white.
Mabati.
Na wetoa tu roof.
Wanataka mabati yao.
But you know, nowadays, some flat roof ndio
the design.
Ndio inabamba.
All right.
We are doing away with this. Sasa ndio inabamba. All right. So debate across different platforms, people wondering what happened to State House. But that's just one of the dailies. The other dailies are talking more politics.
Mitego mbele ya Ruto, that is Taifa Leo.
Right, let's take a look at the other one. Daily Nation coalition shopping matters politics.
The Star, Ruto rides on sugar deal for votes 2027.
Still political. On the People Daily.
The return of Mungiki.
This is a big story even on TV47. We have a special feature on this.
And on Business Daily, UK's Actis sells Java House to 2 private equity firms.
All right, so these are just the local dailies, and we'll be back to take a look at them in depth. Let's cross the border and take a look at the region. And we start off with the East African. It talks about Uganda taking Burundi bases in Somalia. Entry of AUSOM. Remember, initially it was AMISOM. Now they've moved to AUSOM. Marks the start of Somalia's third transition in 6 years, which was not envisaged in plan mooted 7 years ago. And so Ugandan peacekeepers who have been very, very key, even with AMISOM, now taking over Burundi bases there. This paper also has an image which many Kenyans probably would find interesting, and that's the AUC chairperson's candidate from Djibouti, Yusuf, meeting Samia Suluhu Hassan. Many Kenyans would have very mixed reactions to this photo. Washangaa kwa nini Samia anakaa na huyo mtu kwa picha moja, wengine wanashangilia.
Jirani anatusaliti.
Jirani anataka kutusaliti, lakini wengine wanasherehekea wakiona hivi. Other quick highlights on the front page of the East African. Ramaphosa set to take G20 mantle. South Africa expects its G20 presidency this year to leave a lasting impression. And how the US exit from WHO will hit Africa is a story that is highlighted on the bottom right-hand corner of this paper. But there could be changes. I heard over the weekend that the US exiting the WHO. But you wonder, okay, you give an executive orders, then less than a week
You know, every
later,
country
is he
will
really,
pay equal share. That is what he wants.
That's what he says.
Yeah.
Every country to pay an equal share.
to WHO.
Equitable share or equal share.
Equitable share.
Yes, because he was saying that China, with its billions in population, only pays 39 billion USD.
Yeah. But
And
China's
then-
also,
And then US pays about $1 trillion.
yeah.
So yes, it's a big story. If at all guys can adjust, Trump atarudi. In Uganda,
The 1 million hole inside the PLE, now analysis of the annual primary living examination results for pupils who joined primary 1 in 2018, 2017, 16 and 14 puts the completion rate at 40.7% with an average of 1 million learners dropping out of each cycle.
wow, that's scary. It means that more than half of those who get into primary school in Uganda do not actually complete primary school. In Kenya, transition rate to secondary school is almost 80, 90. They were targeting 100%. But in Uganda, hata kama tunasema education matters wako mbele, hapa iko shida. Watu nusu ya wale wanaenda primary.
Yeah.
Hawamalizi. That story is covered on pages 4, 5, 30 and 34. So it is a big deal in Uganda.
President Museveni, Fred, you will help me with that. My eyes can't reach there.
Government gives PDM beneficiaries New Year gift, and we can actually see him with some people here. I also can't read much there. It is a bit pixelated.
Yeah.
But the big story in Uganda matters education and the completion rate of primary education. That's a big headline on the Daily Monitor.
Now, New Vision schools to lower cut-off points. This move is aimed at admitting more senior 1 learners. That story is on page 6. That's the top story there. Down here we see Museveni orders probe into PDM funds. It's a photo of the President Yoweri Museveni with Prime Minister Robin Nobenja, of course, after awarding her with the Distinguished Order of the Crested Crane. That is Grand Commander Medal. A total of 61 individuals, including 18 women, were awarded medals at Mobende National Teachers College yesterday.
So matters education still given prominence on the front page of this one. Matters cut-off points. So education following the release of results last week. They're still doing a series of more stories there. There's a very interesting story here where the president of Uganda has been quoted, pale chini asema, Museveni warns of cancer in groundnuts. Sasa njugu zimepata cancer wapi? That story is on page 2. So what exactly is he saying? He's warning of cancer in groundnuts. That's very interesting.
Ataki watu wakule njugu.
Njugu na vile kuna watu najua wanapenda hapa sana. Anyway, that's as far as Uganda is concerned. Let's take a look at Tanzania and we start off with the Citizen.
Tanzania set for economic gains as Samia hosts Energy Summit. Now, the summit offers Tanzania a valuable platform to attract investment in its energy sector, providing opportunities to secure funding for large-scale projects. That story is on page 2 of the Citizen. Na naona wanatembea kwa footsteps za Kenya.
Some 25 African heads of states will attend the 2-day summit to discuss strategies for ensuring reliable, affordable and sustainable energy access across the continent. Remember Tanzania, they are way ahead with their SGR, wanatumia stima, lakini shida ni ati hiyo stima upotea. Sasa ile tu gari ya moshi imefika hivi kwa forest, stima inapotea, inabidi mshuke.
Tourism players cry foul over towers fee hike. Now, concerns are growing in Tanzania's tourism industry after a sudden increase in fees imposed by the government via the Tanzania Wildlife Management Authority tower for tourists and service providers visiting game-protected areas. That story is on page 3 of the Citizen.
Right. There's some politics, Paleju.
What Chadema must do after national leadership election.
Remember, you see where they place their politics on the front page of this paper, with elections being this year.
Yeah.
In Kenya, we are 3 years away from our elections, and matters politics are actually the biggest occupier of space on the front pages. Let's take a look at the Mwananchi. Tunasalia kule Bongo, gazeti la Mwananchi wanasema ni historia mpya. Wakuu wa nchi 25 kutinga Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, ikiweka historia nyingine Afrika. Sehemu ya barabara 9 maarufu kufungwa kwa muda, serikali yaagiza watumishi wa umma kufanya kazi nyumbani, wachumi wataja fursa. So 25 heads of states are descending into Dar es Salaam for this energy summit. Na watu mpaka wameambiwa wafanyie kazi home. Sio lazima mkuje kazini. It will be very busy. You can work from home. Na nishati kwa wakuu wa nchi Afrika. Mkutano wa nishati. Nishati ndio energy. Every day you learn. Pale chini masuala ya siasa, Wasira rusha kijembe upinzani. Makamu mwenyekiti wa Chama cha Mapinduzi CCM Bara Stephen Wasira amesema mabadiliko ya katiba ya chama hicho yaliyofanyika yatawezesha kupata wagombea wa udiwani na ubunge wazuri na si mzigo, huku akivionya vyama vya upinzani akisema Ikulu wataendelea kuishuhudia kwenye runinga tu. Hata waongea vibaya ambao wataona State House kwa TV. Sisi tunaiona hata kwa gazeti leo. Simulizi wazazi waliotupwa shimo la choo. Sio watoto, wazazi ndio walitupwa shimo la choo. Gazeti hili. Pale juu Trump alegeza amri ya Marekani kujiondoa WHO, alisema kila mtu akilipa sawa tarudi. Mahinyela alikataa vita vya Mbowe, Lissu, Chadema, masuala ya siasa na mwamba wa Burkina Faso kuwa kivutio Dar. So one of the 25 heads of states who are going to descend on Dar is this president of Burkina Faso, Captain Ibrahim Traore, a very popular figure across the continent. Watu wanataka kuona kija Dar kama atakuja na wale wasio wanabeba hivi briefcase hapo kando. So these are just some of the regional dailies. Matters politics, the energy summit in Dar es Salaam this week, matters education in Uganda. So we'll be back to take a look at Kenya's local dailies in depth to see what people in Kenya are discussing. For now, let's take a look at the weather situation across the country. And we start off in Nairobi today because people did not expect this, yet it happened. Yeah. It is 17 degrees Celsius as we speak. The forecaster says expect light rains likely at around 1 p.m. Yes. So sunny intervals throughout the morning with the highs of 22, but in the afternoon there will be showers.
23. With
the temperatures going as high as 23 degrees. So hiyo mvua umeona throughout the weekend bado inaendelea. Yes, a lot of rain in Nairobi. But is this the same situation across the country? We start off with Eldoret. Tuone kama they're experiencing something similar.
12 degrees as at now. Highs of 24 degrees, cloud cover throughout, hamna mvua, kutakuwa na jua.
Yes. So in Eldoret, sunlight throughout the day. What about Ukambani in Kitui? Promises some rain this morning. So yeah, 2.8 millimeters of rain. So a drizzly morning, but which will give way to sunny intervals throughout the afternoon. Highs of 28 degrees. So at least kule Kitui wana experience some rain. They'll get more rain come Thursday this week. So Kitui, hata kama mvua ijawafikia, itawafikia leo asubuhi na later in the week. Let's take a look at Mombasa.
25 degrees, feels like 27. Nyi mko sawa kabisa. Highs of 31 degrees. Cloud cover throughout. Jua, not throughout. Mtakuwa na jua.
For the better part of the morning. The rest of the afternoon ni jua. Proper sunlight in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Tuone Nyahururu, hao wanakuanga hata wanaweza kuwa na snow. 12 degrees Celsius as we speak. Okay. Even then they might experience some rain, but later in the afternoon, about 1 millimeter. Nothing much there in terms of rainfall. But yes, sunny intervals for the better part of the day, but a bit of drizzle and showers late afternoon. And tukimalizia pale Turkana.
24 degrees, feels like 25. Cloud cover throughout. Highs of 37 degrees.
Huko hakuna mvua. In Turkana it's 0.0 millimeters. So yes, if at all you're looking for dry weather, Turkana is a place to go to. Hapa you'll need to hydrate. Hapa usipokunywa maji utaumia.
Na sunscreen.
Yes. Oh, sunscreen. Sunscreen. Sunscreen usaidia?
Kabisa.
Okay.
Wakinisikia watanipiga vita sana.
Anu Dida amesema lazima mtumie sunscreen. Kama ujui sunscreen ni nini, shauri yako. Let's come back to Nairobi and take a look at the traffic situation. As at 13 minutes past the hour, so this is the outlook of the entire city of Nairobi. You can see some trouble spots already around, especially on what do you call this? This is Outer Ring Road. Yes, Outer Ring Road iko na shida. So anyone coming from that side, you can see this stretch. Outer Ring Road, Pipeline, pale mbele naona kuna nione kama mtaweza kuona zaidi nikitumia. Once you get closer to Donholm, there's a lot of traffic there as far back as Tumaini pipeline. So these sections of the road, kuna shida. That's Jogoo Road around Makadara. It's building up. Once you get to City Stadium roundabout, there's also pressure there. Machakos bus station there, build up. Once you get to Haile Selassie Avenue, you're also getting some issues there. Around Nyayo Stadium, I don't understand what happens there, but yes, that is a trouble spot. The other area that we expect problems is around Timol area because there was a lot of flooding over the weekend. I don't know if that water has dissipated yet, but that could be a problem for you. Mahali ingine iko shida ni hapa, Mama Lucy Kibaki Hospital. You can see red both sides of the road. This is Kangundo Road. Hapa iko shida. So kama hujatoka upande hiyo, iko shida for now. Let's take a look at the other trouble spots. That's usually around Pangani Interchange. Not so bad, but it's building up. Areas around Pangani here. But there's a problem here. Now, this is a problem. This is a very troublesome Monday. You look at Thika Road. Immediately after Allsops, heading towards town, just before you get to KCA University, there's a whole stretch of red. There's a whole stretch of red. Yes. There's a whole stretch of red here. Now, this is way before you get to Pangani Interchange. So I don't know what's happening there. If you're using Thika Road, if you can avoid that area, please do. So yes, it promises to be a very tricky morning for so many people in Nairobi. Mama Lucy, Thika Road, and once you get to parts of town. Yeah. So that's as far as traffic is concerned. We might take a look at the traffic situation later on to see how much it will have changed.
But right about now, let's take a look at the quote of the day.
The strongest people are not those who show strength in front of us, but those who win battles we know nothing about. Remember, every small victory is a testament to your resilience.
All right, let's take a deep look into the dailies today. We start off with the Standard, and the top story there is Note Our State House. The new design of the house on the hill, which strips away its colonial heritage for a modern flat roof look, has fueled criticism, with Kenyans raising concerns about erasing historical identity.
It's a beautiful photo there. I love the headline. Not Our State House. Wakenya wamekasirika sana. It looks much smaller, if you ask me. It's not as imposing as the other building the way it was. I think the roof, that colonial look roof, would have given it a different feel. So the flat roof right now gives it, that's an after look. Looks much smaller. It looks like what we saw on the one in Dodoma, the Tanzanian one. It's a very, it's very white, flat roof. Looks very Swahili-like, and this is what it looks like.
It looks nice.
It doesn't feel like State House, though. It doesn't feel. To be honest, for those who have grown watching State House and the intrigues there, what do you think? Do you agree?
So are the concerns valid?
I don't know. You know, once you're used to something, once it changes, we don't like change. Very few people like change, but maybe it will grow new later. Yeah.
So an architect here has been quoted saying State House has enough space. They wanted to make another structure without desecrating the current one. There are always also very qualified architects and other built professionals who would have given their expertise. Interesting.
So watu wamekasirika sana. That's and I think this is a departure from all other stories. I congratulate the Standard for going with this, because it is indeed a big discussion online, away from all the other political headlines.
Yeah. All right, on the top strip of the Standard, we see fight against bars near schools almost getting lost. And they say despite efforts to shield school-going children from alcohol and substance abuse, several bars and entertainment joints continue to operate dangerously close to educational institutions. Now, parents and education stakeholders blame these establishments for facilitating easy access to alcohol, contributing significantly to drug abuse among students. Yeah. Now, keep off 300 meters distance that alcohol dispensing outlets should be from any nursery, primary, secondary or other learning institutions for persons under the age of 18. That's what they say, that the fight against bars near schools almost getting lost.
But what happens if at all you had already put up a bar, then someone comes and opens a school closer to your bar?
Yeah.
Who's to blame? Now, do you move the bar or the school?
Interesting.
That's the Standard today. The only other story down there, alcohol women and a tragic fall, the life and times of Wanjiru, the marathoner who passed on a few years back from a tragic fall, pages 4 and 5 of the Standard. Let's now move on to more political headlines, na tunaanza na gazeti la Taifa Leo. Wanasema mitego mbele ya Ruto, kitanuka, wanasema hivyo. Gachagua anakusanya kikosi mara, kigogo wa majuzi zaidi kuungana naye akiwa Martha Karua. Jubilee nayo imetangaza kuunga mkono azma ya urais ya Matiang'i. Nao Kalonzo na Omalwa kwa upande mmoja na Mtata kwa upande mwingine wanatisha simzaha, Ruto ana kibarua kigumu. Wanasema wale mitego, wameweka picha kadhaa za watu wanaomzunguka Rais Ruto. Hao wote wanawania urais. Wapinzani wa rais wanazidi kuongezeka kila kukicha, wote wakiwa na nia moja ya kumng'oa kitini mwaka 2027. But the question is, wakiwa wengi hivi, si basi watapoteza?
Wote watapoteza.
Wote watapoteza. Atapita katikati yao. Vidokezo zaidi kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo, anasema uwepo wa Olo Joponi wazua utata, matters reconstitution of the IEBC. Karua pia hapa anasema kuna njama ya vitambulisho. Kinara wa Kenya asema serikali inapanga kuwanyima Gen Z stakabadhi hiyo. Habari kamili kwenye ukurasa wa 3. Na kifo kwa ugaidi wa Mombasa ni habari nyingine hapa kwenye ukurasa wa mbele. Pale juu masuala ya spoti na siasa za kwingineko. Ruto sasa aunga Trump kuhusu jinsia. Rais wa Amerika amepinga utambuzi wa LGBTQ akisema jinsia ni mbili tu. Lakini unajua sheria za Kenya zinakubalisha jinsia ya tatu. So rais wa Kenya akiongea aseme ni mbili, anasema ni kwani tunafuata tu America blindly kama sheria inasema kuna intersex.
Intersex.
Na hata ukiangalia stakabadhi zingine za serikali ukijaza kuna jinsia moja, pili na ya tatu. Masuala ya spoti, farasi watatu wa EPL waanza kujitokeza. Liverpool wapaa kileleni, Arsenal, Man City nao watimka mbio. Masuala ya EPL kwenye ukurasa wa 20. Let's take a look at the Daily Nation.
Daily Nation wameenda na same story pale, coalition shopping. Now rivals seeking to form strong vehicles to oust Ruto, who is working hard to retain seat. With more than 2 years to the next general election, Kenya's political landscape is already shifting in earnest, with key players engaging in intense negotiations and strategic maneuvers to secure alliances. Behind closed doors, the power brokers are shopping for parties and coalitions that could determine the country's future leadership. From secret meetings to public endorsements, the chessboard is set and moves to secure a place at the high table are underway. Now we see photos there. We see President William Ruto and Prime CS, their parties UDA and NC last week merged to form United Democratic Alliance Party, UDA. We see Kalonzo Musyoka and Eugene Wamalwa together with Trans Nzoia Governor George Natembeya. They are working on a deal ahead of 2027 polls. We see Martha Karua and Rigathi Gachagua. They are seeking to unite Mount Kenya region and form a strong alliance aimed at liberating the country. And we see Fred Matiang'i and Uhuru Kenyatta. Allies of Mr. Kenyatta say the former head of state plans to back Dr. Matiang'i to dethrone President Ruto. Now, divided house, Raila Odinga is at the center of this. That even though there are signs that Raila Odinga could side with President Ruto in a coalition akin to their working arrangement in 2007 under the Pentagon, Mr. Odinga's party seems divided, with party officials either backing Dr. Ruto or distancing themselves from his camp.
All right. Interesting matters, politics. And this is a big discussion. And yes, unfortunately, this is what we're talking about 3 years from election day.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, in Tanzania, they're going for elections in October this year. Masuala ya siasa imewekwa kule juu. Inafichwa tu. Hizo ni story ndogo ndogo.
Yeah.
In Uganda, they have the elections next year. No politics on the front pages at all. But in Kenya, elections 2027, And that's everything, that's all we're talking about. It's only the standard that has decided to go with the new look State House. All right. Let's move on to the next paper. And that's the Star. They talk about matters 2027, same discussion. Ruto rides on sugar deal for votes. Observers believe Western is a new Mount Kenya and sugar is a new coffee. With new state support, the industry has been thrust into center of presidential re-election bid. Do you agree with this assessment that Western Kenya could actually replace Mount Kenya?
No.
And that the debates around sugar could be the big debate around coffee? Or you draw a parallel there and probably, because coffee politics can actually be a huge determinant of national politics. Mount Kenya people take their coffee very seriously.
Yeah.
So will sugar, because the problem is Western Kenya, many farmers had actually given up on sugar farming. So I don't know if it is a big enough incentive for them to think politically going forward. Pale juu, Nairobi heads of state summit to drum up support for Raila AU job. Bado countdown, February iko karibu sana. Masuala ya uchaguzi wa AUC yakiwadia. Suppliers owed by City Hall to wait longer as Assembly okays 1.2 billion shillings. Justice delayed, justice denied. Judge narrates husband's ordeal in courts. All right, so these are just some of the stories on the front page of the Star. They also make mention of the decimated areas of the savannah by wildfires. And they say up to 60% of savannah decimated by wildfires. So even when they talk about the fires in California, in Kenya, areas of Isiolo, there are fires that are destroying huge tracts of land. And probably it's only the Star that has given this story prominence on the front page. This is the very first time we're seeing this story.
Yeah.
People Daily.
The return of Mungiki, that story is on page 4, and this is our top story as well. You've mentioned that earlier. So that story is on page 4 of the People Daily. Maybe you can take a look at it later. And we see on page 6, fresh hurdle on IEBC as Kalonzo opposes Ruto advisor in panel.
Martin Olo.
Yep.
Martin Olo ama Dr. Olo huyo mwingine. All right.
Take a look at it.
So millions of learners out of school due to climate change. That's a story.
Adam Solo.
Adam Solo, yes, Adam Solo, not Martin Olo.
Yeah.
So yes, these are some of the stories. Finally, business. UK's Actors sells Java House to 2 private equity firms, Altera Capital and Fatilsa, to acquire controlling stake in Java House. It's the 4th time restaurant chain is changing hands. So ni kama inauzwa, Java inauzwa. Nikupeleke Java. Other quick highlights on the front page of Business Daily. Unit Trust overtakes stocks on growing investor appetite. And on the ticker, Kenya visitor arrivals growth slows despite visa-free policy. So it's not really resulting in more visitors, the new free visa to Kenya. Turkana, West Pokot, Homa Bay have leased power connections. Homa Bay. Interesting.
Wow.
Starlink's market share more than doubles. Okay. And foreign investors up KCB stake with extra 69 million shares. This is as far as business is concerned today. And as we come to the end of this session, let's take a look at the cartoons to see the kind of discussions today. We start off with the one on the Standard, and we have a caricature of President William Ruto, quick off the line in a running truck towards 2027. Anasema anauliza campaign mode, brace yourself for real campaign. Real campaign, but this is ile kuja kutakuwa na uchungu campaign when we start. So he seems to be telling people that he hajaanza campaign, but if you watch him closely, this gentleman is deep into the campaigns. He's already had a head start. Shaanza campaign, and last week he spent an entire week in Western Kenya dishing out bonuses to sugar farmers. And even the Star makes mention of that, that ndio itadetermine 2027. So unasemaje hiyo si campaign?
Daily Nation, tunaona pale Haiti anti-gang squad. Na this is our Kenyan police. Wanaingia pale kwenda kusaidia Haiti gang, while we have Mungiki sect threatening a return.
The irony.
Yeah.
the same police who should be countering the Mungiki resurgence are all heading out to Haiti because Haiti apparently is a big priority to us and we really care about Haitians more than we care about our own.
Wanaenda kufight Mungiki wengine.
Barbecue at cheers. All right. People Daily. What a special way of creating jobs. So IMF is manipulating this wheelbarrow. So in as far as parastatals are concerned, many people are being dumped off their jobs with the merging of parastatals because IMF has said so. Coming at a time when the government is struggling to create more jobs. So the commentator says, what a special way of creating jobs. And finally, this is a star.
We see President Trump and President William Ruto, President Ruto backing Trump on that gender, only two genders. And tunaona hapo nyuma ameficha Haiti.
So kuna vile anajaribu kujipanga. Unajua anasema ni kujipanga my friend. Anajaribu kujipanga na Trump. So anakuja na support gender hapa even if the law in Kenya says something different. Lakini because anajua he needs support on the Haiti mission. And also he would really benefit if Trump reconsiders his withdrawing America from the WHO. So pale ni kujipanga my friend. Those are the cartoons this morning. And we'll be looking at some of these discussions, issues around Mungiki resurgence, early campaigns, and that is something we've talked about. Yes, the early campaigns across Kenya, 3 years to election day. Watu wanajipanga, reorganizations, yet kuna wengine wamekasirika sababu ya State House sana. So today, we're going to be having this four-panel. On State of the Nation, Philip Kisia, that's a leadership and governance expert, Senator Danson Mungatana of Tana River, and Samuel Pogisio, former cabinet minister in the Kibaki II administration, will be a panelist after the break. Do stand by for that on State of the Nation as we chambua those big headlines. After that, at 8 a.m., we have Monday Blitz, a weekend recap of all the sporting activities. Remember, Kenya Sevens team performed reasonably well. And they're now preparing for Vancouver Sevens. So hawa ndio watakuja kuchambua haya maneno. Shutterboy and Fred Arocho will be in studio alongside former Harambee Stars player Innocent Motiso.
And then later on, we'll be talking about legal grounds for suing your employer after resignation with Evans Ndong.
All right. So do stand by for this, coming your way at around 9:30 this morning. Yes. So socials?
Interact with us on TV47 Kenya on Facebook and YouTube, TV47 News KE on X. My handle is Anna_Dida. The hashtag is Morning Cafe.
My X handle is at Fred Indemule.
Stay with
us. We'll be
us.
right back.
Are you ready to elevate your business game?
As long as you're earning something, there's always that opportunity to save. And you start with where you are.
Kama wewe ni mfanyabiashara, huwezi kaa bure, unajipanga taratibu vile inavyofaa.
Join us each week as we dive into the stories of the world's most driven entrepreneurs.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
The Grind, where business meets brilliance. Tune in every Monday at 7:30 p.m. because your business deserves the best.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips And the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwa watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
Are you ready to elevate your business game?
As long as you're earning something, there's always that opportunity to save. And you start with where you are.
Kama wewe ni mfanyabiashara, huwezi kaa bure, unajipanga taratibu vile inavyofaa.
Join us each week as we dive into the stories of the world's most driven entrepreneurs.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
The Grind, where business meets brilliance. Tune in every Monday at 7:30 p.m. because your business deserves the best.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwe watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
Are you ready to elevate your business game?
As long as you're earning something, there's always that opportunity to save. And you start with where you are.
Kama wewe ni mfanyabiashara, huwezi kaa bure, unajipanga taratibu vile inavyofaa.
Join us each week as we dive into the stories of the world's most driven entrepreneurs.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
The Grind, where business meets brilliance. Tune in every Monday at 7:30 p.m. because your business deserves the best.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and
All right. Good morning once again and welcome to TV47. This is indeed Morning Cafe. Time for us to take a look at the big headlines this morning. One of the big headlines, and is generating debate even before we start the show, is the one on the front page of the Standard. Not our State House. It's right behind me here. Yes. The new design of the house on the hill, which strips away its colonial heritage for a modern flat roof look, has fueled criticism, with Kenyans raising concerns about erasing historical identity. And they've given you a before and after picture of State House. Similar photo with the president and a visiting dignitary facing what you call the military parade, with the State House on the background. And this appears to have generated quite some debate away from what people have been talking about. So we'll start off there. And allow me to introduce my panelists this morning, starting on my immediate left. Samuel Pogisio, Senate Majority Leader in the 12th Parliament, also served as Minister for ICT in the Kibaki II administration. Karibu sana, Bwana Pogisio.
Asante sana, thank you.
Next to Bwana Pogisio, we have Philip Kisia, a leadership and governance expert, who also served as a town clerk of this great city of Nairobi. Bwana Kisia, karibu sana.
Thank you.
And we also are privileged to have with us this morning Danson Mungatana, Senator, Tana River County. Senator, it's good to have you.
And good morning, Kenyans.
So what is the noise about? Yes, State House has changed its look and Kenyans are not happy. I know many Kenyans are resistant to change, but what is the big deal about modernizing a building that, is not really Kenyan? It has the hallmarks of colonialists. So, Bwana Pogisio, do you understand this debate?
No, I don't understand it. It's just that, first of all, it's true, this is not our State House. Because the State House is a national symbol. The State House we know in those two photos is the one below. So if the day I saw the new look, I wondered whether it was AI generated. I didn't believe it. I couldn't believe that someone can actually decide, and there's no public participation in it, no information to the public. It was in wraps and just unveiled suddenly. And I think then if it were an approval by the public, it would have been okay. We would have gotten used to it. But the shock of just being told, this is now your new State House, and it's not new. It's the same old one. You know, the Tanzanian president has built something like that, but it is Tanzania's. It's a new. Tanzania did theirs and did a new one. And this, I thought this looks more like what we have in Machakos.
Yes.
It was meant to be designed that way. But this was not meant to be designed that way. When you break walls and break roofs and change, definitely something can be lost in there. I don't understand what went wrong with what we had. Because, I mean, it's also, in my view, historic that we keep certain buildings the way they are forever. We're not going to change them. I mean, because they're historic, they're protected by the historic buildings legislation. And I think this building is a museum of Kenya Peace. So I don't know, but I just don't understand. Anyway, I don't understand many things because look here. Every year I look at the budget, and the renovations of these buildings has consumed so much money. I didn't realize they were changing the face of it. In fact, we could have preserved that building, and there's so much land there. If you wanted to build a new state house, you could have actually done a modern state house without having to break that one, because that is really something that we need to preserve for the future. However, since I don't understand very much what goes on, it is maybe now we have, of course, we have Danson here who will explain to us what happened to our state house.
And before we give the senator an opportunity, Bonakisia, you've had the opportunity to be the CEO of the biggest monument in this city. That's the KICC. And it's the same way we treat KICC. That if someone was to wake up today and remove the roof as we know it from KICC and change it, probably many Kenyans would not be happy about that. We had the argument about even disposing of KICC, and you could see the sentiments. People are really sentimental about these things. Do you understand this argument or this debate?
I'm totally lost, Fred. Good morning, Kenya. But it is extremely annoying to wake up one morning and discover that one single individual can mess up with our heritage, can mess up with our historical identity, with no regard, with no reference to the owners, the public. State House and all government properties are public properties. They belong to the public. They are not personal properties. And therefore, it is important that the occupant, the temporary occupant of State House and state lodges take cognizance of the fact that he is only transiting. There will be another one after him. Maybe tomorrow, maybe next year, whenever the time comes. Does it mean that that one who comes will also have his own take and change as if he's changing his own small little Simba in Shamahoho? People need to be a bit more civilized and understand that no single individual is against modernity, but we are against disregard to our laws. This is, as a person who ran this city as a town clerk and chief executive officer, I can tell you, without any fear of contradiction, that such renovations would have required City Hall to get involved. Mm-hmm. City Hall to give approvals. But again, being a national monument, public participation should have taken place. But even having said that, Fred, people are starving. We are complaining about a squeeze on our national resource, the envelope. We are complaining that we don't have sufficient resources to run a government. Yet we have a government that can spend money on areas that are not a priority. This is so annoying. If this does not annoy Kenyans to take action, I don't know what will annoy Kenyan. I've just been reading the paper, and they're budgeted to spend 10 billion shillings renovating State House. I mean, you are allowed to improve a building. You are allowed, but a historical building, you are confined to the interior, not the exterior. The exterior is retained. You don't mess it around. There are so many buildings that you have that are personal. Why can't you go and demolish them? And nobody will complain. For heaven's sake, have some respect, have some modicum of respect to Kenyans. This is Kenyan property. This property belongs to Kenyans. It's not your personal property that you can do as you wish. Then it reminded me of HH, His Excellency the President of Zambia, Hachilima. When he took over, he was told, oh, boss, we have a budget running into hundreds of millions of dollars to buy new vehicles. And HH asked one question, do you have old vehicles that I can use? The ones that my predecessor was using. And he was told yes. So why do you want us to spend millions of dollars buying new motor vehicles? Look at that and contrast with my friend, good friend, William Samoei, Arab Chirichiri, Ruto, spending public resources, public personal money. It is annoying. It is annoying. I'm hoping that my good friend, Mungatana, who is modest in all ways, will take the time and explain to His Excellency the President that even if it were to be done, it is not a priority. It cannot be a priority in the next 2 years. And I can tell you, this is not going down well. You cannot misuse public resources as if they are personal resources. These are public resources.
Well, Senator, this building has been in existence for over 60 years.
Yes.
We've had 4 presidents who've used the same property without huge changes. Now, William Ruto comes, and within 2 years, he's built a huge pavilion within State House, and he's changed the look of the main building. And many people are wondering, the main question is, was it really necessary to do that right now? There may have been some concerns about the structural integrity of the building because it is old, but did it have to be this drastic?
So, Fred and Kenyans watching me, can I just say, there's a Kiswahili saying that says, tembea uone dunia. I was in the State House of Uganda, and looking at the economy of Uganda as compared to our economy, I was embarrassed that our State House was the way it was, and the Ugandan State House was the way it was. I had the same feeling when I went to Kigali and when I went to Tanzania. So there's a case for us to improve the State House and to make it look the way it should look. There's a case for modernizing our State House, okay? And then we need to accept that times have changed, okay? Times have changed in such a way that we who are in counties, in the county governments, like senators and governors, when we inherited the former county council buildings, the county assemblies went on to create new county assembly buildings. Some of them, the same places, but they modernized the buildings and created new look county assemblies from the same old, what you call colonial buildings. The governors, many of them, again, from the same place where the mayors used to operate, they also modernized these places. And in fact, there was a standard building that was approved, because we also approved in the Senate a standard amount of money for the constructions of the county government buildings. So people have moved from the old buildings to the new buildings. It's in fact only 5 county governments that have not finished construction of the new county government buildings. So people have moved from where the mayors used to operate to where the governors operate from. We had old colonial uniforms, the kaptulas, people would remember, for police, and the marungus they used to use. Colonial heritage again. That was improved. It was changed to what we now have. And I hear that they want even to improve it further. People know that the old famous Mercedes that Jomo Kenyatta, our first president, used to stand on and call Harambee, again has been changed with the changing times. So from where I stand, I think the question that people should probably want to look at is different. Do we need change? That one is a given. We have changed many things. We have moved from what we inherited to new things, and what works for new lifestyle, the new modern life. You'll find that a lot of the old buildings, for example, may not be compliant with technology. You'll have to break this, break that to make cables move in and whatever. But new buildings are smart buildings. They're living within what is required now. So I sometimes agree that that old house that your father or your mother used to live in, where you grew up in the village, may have been very nice. That's where you did your first things, matopes, the first tree there, may have been very nice. But when you grew up, you went and helped them to reconstruct a new building back home, because things have changed. It may have worked very well to sleep on the floor or on that mud and whatever, but as you grew up, you have to change the floor, change the whole structure. And it was a round house. You changed it into something where you feel comfortable that your father and mother are living. And indeed, life changes. But you yourself, even when you are effecting those changes, your parents may have resisted you and said, no, we are comfortable where we are. So it is understandable. The feeling is understandable. But we must keep in tandem with the times, in tandem with what needs to be done. And that is how our country should move. Mm-hmm. And people who are arguing against this, against the changes and whatever, I understand that feeling. It's the same thing. You want that old house, the way it used to be that same way, because those are the corners you used to run. That's where you used to be chapward, you have vibokos. That's where the food used to be cooked. You used to steal the meat from there. There are lots of memories around that house. But you would want your parents to live in a better place than the way you found them. And so I think the questions that, the feeling is understandable, but the question about, this building shouldn't be constructed, I think that's a wrong question. Whether we should have a new state house, I think that's a wrong question. For me, I think we need to have a new state house. We need to have things that are keeping with the times. We need to be, so that if Museveni comes to visit Kenya, he would see something similar to what he has, and so on. And maybe the questions that Kenyans should be asking, from my perspective, is how much money was spent, and was the money worth the value of the, money for value? Those are the things that, and that is the precise function of Parliament. Have they oversighted? Have they checked to see that we got value for the money that was allocated in the budget? But as to whether we should have a new building or not, I think those are questions that are more emotional than relevant to what needs to be done.
Yes, indeed, many questions around the new look State House. It is a story on the front page of the Standard. Do you agree with these three gentlemen with regard to their own opinions on this debate? It is now a flat roof State House. That red or brown rooftop is no longer there, and it looks very different. How do you like your new State House? Well, time for us to take a break. When we come back, we talk about the resurgence of the Mungiki. What exactly is happening? You're watching Morning Cafe.
ready to elevate your business game.
As long as you're earning something, there's always that opportunity to save. And you start with where you are.
Kama wewe ni mfanyabiashara, huwezi kaa bure, unajipanga taratibu vile inavyofaa.
Join us each week as we dive into the stories of the world's most driven entrepreneurs.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
The Grind, where business meets brilliance. Tune in every Monday at 7:30 p.m. because your business deserves the best.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break.
Welcome back. You're watching Morning Cafe on TV 47. We now want to move the discussion from this debate about the new look State House to something else that is quite disturbing. It's on the front page of the People Daily today, the return of the Mungiki. Now, this is a growing debate. Even in one of the cartoons, it makes mention of the same, that we have our police going to contain the gangs in Haiti. Yet in Kenya, a notorious gang is seemingly making a comeback into our streets and villages. It is part of the stories covered here on TV 47 as well. We do have some bites of people, different people, and their opinion about the resurgence of the Mungiki. We could listen to them and then come and discuss it with our panelists here.
Standing on a pulpit on the 4th of January 2025, former Deputy President, in his character of a self-proclaimed man who speaks the truth boldly, sounded an alarm.
History is repeating itself.
Gachagua expressing his reservations over a meeting held on December 31st, 2024 at Kabiroine Stadium in Nyeri, where former Mungiki leader Maina Njenga was the face of the gathering.
Government has been managing the economy. It has become unpopular. People have started saying no. The same gang leader ametafutwa na serikali na ameletwa hapa.
I have not been given any post by the government. They are those people who have been appointed to come see us in the Republic of Kenya, including Lee Kenyanjui, Kabogo, and other people in Nyeri, Mutahi Kagwe. So I am not causing any trouble, and I'm not being used by anybody. I'm my own person.
Despite saying that Mui Hua Mwema, we know Maina Njenga, and we associate him with everything bad in this world.
Gachagua further alleging Njenga's presence in the Mount Kenya region signals a resurgence of the outlawed Mungiki sect through the help of the government.
Hiyo maneno ni mbaya, na watu ya area hii hawezi kubali, na hiyo kikundi iliumiza watu wetu.
They don't understand what they're talking about, these leaders. They need to understand, we don't have Mungiki, we have the people of Kenya. If there was a group by the name Mungiki, it existed so many years ago.
We do remember what we were taken through as a community, Kirinyaga, Nyeri, and the mountain, you know, and we cannot allow people who so purport to be leading such people. I even had him gloating over TV that he is leading people who are organizing bus stages. As whom?
Njenga will later storm a prayer meeting that Gachagua was supposed to attend, but sent his wife, Pastor Dorcas Rigathi. The meeting was organized by the members of their Corino group.
Kulikuwa na vijana, sijui walikuwa wametoka wapi. Ukichukua video ama picha, walikuwa na kunyang'anya simu, wanaenda gallery kila pahali, wana delete hizo picha zote na video, alafu wanakurudishia simu. Sasa hiyo ni vibaya sana, watu kuja kwa maombi. Kama hutaki kuonekana kwa video ama kwa picha, kwa nini umekuja kwa hiyo maombi?
However, a section of the legislators from the Mount Kenya region hold a different opinion to the recent happenings.
It's regarding Gachagua who's bringing that name. It is him. He said that I mean, he doesn't want to be, when he has people who are opposing him, he says people are Mungiki.
I wouldn't want any leader to generalize and call people Mungiki, because who is Mungiki? We will cause disturbance in this region when we start calling people Mungiki.
It is a politically irresponsible, lack of political hygiene, and it is also being the dishonest of the highest order when we find somebody trying to parade these young people as Mungiki so that he suits his own political gains.
Despite the political bickering between the two factions divided by loyalty, the leaders are reading from the same script on one thing: the cup of wrath of the Mungiki.
Those memories are still raw in us. They are painful. Where you wake up one morning, you are burying 8 members of one family for no reason.
There are so many scars, and our people are still healing from the events of that year of the Vigilante and the Mungiki.
Anyone who's probably less than 20 years old may not really understand the depth of this issue. Back in 2005 and between that year and 2007, the resurgence of the Mungiki sect caused terror across Mount Kenya region. It took very serious action from the then Interior CS, John Mishuki, to end the menace. There was a lot of pain even for parents when it went towards the kind of action that the government opted to take to end the Mungiki. Now we're seeing some leaders entertaining the thought that there could be some necessity for this gang in this day and age. Mwanapugisio, you were a senior politician back then. Kindly paint a picture for those who may not understand just how bad the issue may be with this gang.
Fred, first of all, I must say that there are certain things that are completely indefensible. Whether you are on the government side or you try to be defending the government, there are certain areas where you cannot defend. And you can see it's very difficult, for example, to defend something like defacing State House. It's difficult, even more difficult to defend the Mungiki thing, whatever you call it. And I don't understand why anybody would even struggle to defend that, to make it look right. When you actually know the characters involved, you know exactly the extent of damage. The people who don't know about it would have to realize that you have to, reading a bit of history would help. Because it wasn't just Mount Kenya that was affected by those people. I mean, almost all Matatu stages and all these other places, they were everywhere, and they controlled certain areas completely. The sad thing about it, in my view, and I think this is when we speak about the rule of law, is the rule of law for everybody. There's no rule of law for government and then a rule of law for the opposition. It is for everyone. What is wrong should be wrong in the eyes of government, should be wrong in the eyes of the opposition, if there's anything like that. That's why we're saying the other day that if somebody says that kidnapping people is wrong, it should be seen to be wrong by everybody. It cannot be right just because you're in government or you want to defend government. And that's why I think the Kenyans must realize that the public owns everything. Kenyans are the ones who own everything, including the presidency, including the offices where we are in. And all the resources are owned by Kenyans. And the people who employ us are Kenyans. And so we must respect them. You cannot, a policeman cannot therefore be used to go and pick up a taxpayer and treat them badly or whatever it is. They must understand that that person is the one that actually pays their salary. Until in this country, until we reach a place where wrong is bad, sin is sin, when we see the things the same way, we cannot understand each other. I mean, look, when this group went and interrupted a church service, absolutely protected by some authority. Imagine. I mean, were you targeting the pastor? Were you targeting the money collected that day? What was it that was being targeted there? And then you say that there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's not anything wrong. You don't see it. The people, we had a minister here called John Mishuki, who took out this group. And he seriously did that because he knew the damage that they had done to him. But before even, I just must end this way, that even these young people who are being used in this way, by now must also begin to see this as being bad. This is a wrong thing to do. Evil must be seen by everybody, including these people who are participating in this. I think I cannot defend this. Even if I were on government side, I would find it difficult to defend this one. It's absolutely wrong to try and bring an outlawed organization and streamline it and make it look like it's actually it can do work for you. It's like saying we have all these criminals who have been imprisoned or, and so one day when we need them, we can go back to the jails and retrieve them, use them for a purpose. It is amazing how we look at things. We should look at evil and bad things affecting Kenyans as bad. Black is black. Why should at any point black become white? So anyway, I do keep saying this because what Philip Kisha said earlier, that running a country as though it was somehow private and personal, it's a clique that runs it. Makes you think everything that is there you can do that with impunity, because of a clique that advises you. And they will say, these guys, we have to stop them. Please, respect is the most important thing. Magnanimity on the part of the president, I say, be magnanimous, and sometimes don't have to respond in the way your advisors are telling you to respond. I do hope that everybody sees that.
Yes, and the difference now is that this group is not emerging purely because of socioeconomic hardships in their regions. It is politicians who are funding this resurgence. And if we could draw parallels to what's happening in Haiti, something that we've discussed for quite a while now, those gangs started the same way, that some politicians felt the need to support some gangs, and the gangs eventually took over. There is definitely a risk with allowing either Mungiki or Chinkoro or any other such grouping to operate uncountered.
Fred, you spoke in my mind. I have been in this city long enough. Actually, I was born here. I celebrated my 62nd birthday when there was a transition of power in America, 20th. So I've seen all these groups. I've had the privilege of running this city for 3 years. So I understand these things very well. It is unfortunate. And Maina Njenga is my friend. I must also declare that one. It is unfortunate that a man who was being harassed just the other day by this regime, and, the same public that then was supporting him in all manners. We had people like Advocate Njeru, I think, Martha Karua, who went to court to defend his rights. I am reminding Maina, my friend, that you should not be misused. That the same people who are using you now are the same people who are eating you yesterday. They are the same people who will come and eat you tomorrow. Let me remind the government, they have a cardinal responsibility of providing security to the people of the Republic of Kenya and even our visitors and property. But if they are saying or suggesting that they have failed, and indeed these are signs of a government that is failing, you hand over the security arrangement to some of these gangs. And as you rightly put it, this is how it started in Haiti. This is how it started in Rwanda. This is how it started in other countries. We've had turmoil. This action, or inaction for that matter, by a government should not be supported by anybody, because we're all Kenyans. When this country burns down because of the reintroduction of some gangs that we fought so hard to deal with, and may God rest the soul of people like Michu in eternal peace. We have had forces like Chinkororo in Western Province, Angola, Msumbiji. If the government has failed and is allowing Mungiki to operate the way they're operating, storming people's functions and meetings, protected by the same security agencies, then they should now allow all other gangs to re-emerge. Angola, Msumbiji, Chingororo, and all those gangs that used to operate in the 70s and 80s. This is something that needs to be thought through very carefully. And those few politicians, and I'm happy I don't see Mongatano on that side, he's a sober man. And those politicians who are encouraging these gangs to re-emerge, they will be eaten by the same guns. But, you can understand why a government will allow this to happen. It's failing in its responsibility, so it's handing over a very important document. But they're also trying to instill fear in the people they're supposed to be governing, in the people they're supposed to be protecting. I remind His Excellency the President, my friend William Ruto, he has a cardinal responsibility of ensuring that the Kenyan people are safe. This Mungiki group should be stopped yesterday.
Right. Senator Mungatana, I remember right that during the height of this Mungiki menace, you were an assistant minister in the government of Mwai Kibaki.
Correct.
And you must have had a close proximity with the discussions that were there in government towards stopping this.
Correct.
There is definitely a risk with the government and the security agencies standing back at allowing such gangs to take over. Do you see that risk this time round?
Let me say that Reverend Kobia, who is the chair of the National Cohesion Commission, has given a formal statement to the effect that there has been an increase in gang presence in 5 counties: Nairobi, Nakuru, Mombasa, Kisumu, and Kiambu. So there has been a problem in the docket of security. And I know in Mombasa, the group that was called Musumbiji or something, Kipanga, has a lot of action has been taken by the coast police in terms of containing them. Now, what about Kisumu? What about Nakuru? What about the other counties that have been mentioned by the chair of the National Cohesion? Has action been taken enough to say that we have contained? Maybe more needs to be done. Maybe more action needs to be taken in. And people, people need to understand this in the global perspective, in the nationwide perspective. It should be understood that crimes and criminal gangs cannot be part of a normal state operation. It cannot be that any state, and in this state of ours, cannot support, this government cannot support any criminal activity because that is abdicating the duty of providing security. And because the National Cohesion has stated that 5 areas, 5 counties have particularly been mentioned, my own appeal is that the National Police, together with the security agencies, should look again into this, because I remember when Honorable Michuki was Minister for Interior, he took it upon himself to really deal with criminal gangs. And I know he did a good job. So my appeal is that the Honorable Murkomen also, having this information from the National Cohesion Commission chair, they should, and I know he has that information also from the security agencies, they should focus and get rid of anything that destabilizes the nation. I'm always against politicizing issues like this. National security is a big issue for all of us. It affects all of us. So for someone to lay claims that it is a government doing this, it is like saying it is the government that is giving us debt, it is the government that is giving us diseases. I think there are some things that we need to come up as a nation and say, we condemn this thing. If it is disease and the minister has given maybe public safety measures using the Public Safety Act, let us support him. If it is security, and the IG or the minister have given some directions, let us all support it.
Yet, Senator,
so
you mentioned something.
You
mentioned something about politics, and I
think it is wrong for us to politicize everything.
Yet the politicians have been blamed.
This country.
Politicians have been blamed of funding this resurgence. That there are some politicians who find necessity in having these gangs in operation. Do you agree with that? And we rarely get to see some of these politicians punished, even when they go after the young men.
So I wanted to say, the NCIC boss, the chair of NCIC, has said there are 5 counties now, and he discussed at length and gave names of those groups, okay? And he approached it in a very scientific way. What I wanted to ask, if there are politicians who are involved, and there are those accusations which are there, then we should lay evidence, because it is very serious to say that you are associated with this gang, Ngatana, you're associated with this gang, and then you don't lay any particular evidence to it. That means you're just playing politics, that you're just tarnishing my name. You are attempting to tarnish my name. So from where I sit, I think if you are saying leader X is involved in criminal activity, then let that leader X be dealt with as that leader X. But don't say it is the government that is doing it. It is the government that is sponsoring this. It is sponsoring means you putting money into the whole thing. Money trail. You need to be able to trace it. You need to be able to put down evidence. So I keep saying that when we have critical problems, instead of us throwing blame at each other, whether you are in leadership or you are in the opposition, the best thing is let us identify the issue and let us work together to solve those issues. So if the NCIC has said there is an increase in gang presence, let the minister do his bit. Let all of us who have information give to the police and to the minister so that those things are dealt with. Because there is nobody in his sane mind would want to support any gang activities. Because in this country, gangs never win elections. Gangs don't control government. So in the end, it is a zero-sum game. Why would you support a gang that would never give you the presidency or the governorship or whatever it is that you're fighting for? So I want to appeal, and I want to actually use this platform to appeal to Kenyans that if you have any information, any information that is linking any leader to activities like this that are illegal, then you should file a formal report. If you feel you cannot file, go to the Law Society, Kenya Human Rights Commission, or any other body that can protect you. Give that information and let them look at it and make sure that it is credible, and then file that information as a complaint so that the security agencies can take action. For me, we must deal with these whole problems, not just in Kiambu, in Nairobi, but in the entire country.
Yet there's been a general challenge, Bwana Pugiso, as far as the security of this nation is concerned. And I'm not saying just this time round. Over the years, even in Mount Elgon, at the time the SLDF and other groupings were there. And it takes a lot of energy resources for government to actually come and contain such groupings to the very end. Why would anyone find necessity to create a problem that would take so much to bring to an end?
Fred, I want to appreciate Senator Mungatana's approach, which is, as you say, scientific in a way, or has to be based on data. So it's true out there we have problems, security problems that need to be sorted out and stamped out. Part of it is what we call cattle rustling, which is also a menace, and then now the gangs, which are their menace. And the other one was, the suspicious kidnappings and so on. The idea of the internal security, is so that we can have more peace in regions and avoid IDPs, creating of IDPs. Kenyans still have a lot of IDPs in existence. Why? Because of such things that we're talking about right now. the right of every Kenyan is to be able to go back home, to their homes, in peace and live in peace. So ICNC is really having a big problem because they churn out this information, but they have no authority to execute or even push or prosecute any of these things. And so we have an organization there that is basically toothless in a way, except that we give money so that they can find out what's wrong with our situation and help us. How much money is being spent on the things we call security operations to try and, remove some of these security issues? And now, if we allow the revolving or in the new gang to come out, we're simply saying we have more money than we need so that we can deal with these matters. So we introduce the problem so that we can deal with it, mop it. That's still a lot of our resources going to security. In fact, we should have a situation where we are not in war with any country, by the way. We're not in war. But we're spending more as if we're in war because of our own internal problems. This kind of problem we're talking about. Our military is armed more for the interior than even for the exterior. Why? Because we have got this problem. So we should be solving them rather than creating more. And I think it doesn't matter if I'm your opponent, but if somebody can come to take my property freely, and the police cannot stop that person, and they can come into my house, carry everything they want, and walk freely, then there's a suspicion that you in the security apparatus are involved in it. When you say it's government, it's because you ask yourself, how did that guy walk into that meeting, destroy whatever they destroyed, that group, and take away whatever they took? You hear about telephones, mobile phones being taken, things being deleted and so on. And you could ask yourself, definitely, where was the police? This gang came in, whatever they are called. Were they armed more than the police? So you ask yourself questions, and I think for Mungatana's sake, it is just the feeling that if somebody can do it freely like that, then government knows about it. Because government is everywhere. Government is everywhere. When you go to church, by the way, government is there. When you go everywhere, government is there. So I don't know. I do want to suggest what I said before. We are spending money for things that we are creating, and the Mwananchi who needs that money is not benefiting from it. And we have a lot of people who live insecurely in this country today.
Okay. Let's look at some of the consequences, and if we may draw parallels with what happened previously, that once you allow these gangs to operate the way they operate, at some point it becomes a problem that's no longer tenable, that you have to deal with it. Now, the methods that were previously used, including special units like the Kwekwe Squad, where parents were complaining that their children are now disappearing, and probably that is one way that was used to contain the dreaded Mungiki back then. Probably that is what the government will have to resort to again. This is, do you agree that that is probably the best way to deal with such a grouping?
I started off by saying that security should concern all of us. There is no security for people in government, like Mheshimiwa Mungatana. I know they are well protected, but there is no security. Security. Okay? We may be deaf, but we are not blind. We saw some women meeting somewhere under the leadership of the second lady of the Republic of Kenya, Dorcas Rigathi. We saw what happened. We saw it. We have seen what has happened. Even the Akorino people have said that their phones are taken away and so on and so forth. The question that I would want to build on what my senior has said, Mheshimiwa Pogisho, is a question of why do we heavily fund NIS, DCI. They're heavily funded. They even have some money that, you don't have to account for such operations, to collect intelligence. I'm assuming that we heavily fund them so that they have capacity to collect intelligence, to foresee what is likely to happen in future, to foretell what is likely to happen in future, okay, through an intelligence system, and to prepare a response for whatever is likely to happen. That is why we heavily fund, not just Kenya, even the US, they heavily fund the FBI and CIA, heavily funded. It is for that purpose. It is not just to have a good unit called National Intelligence Services. They are supposed to do a job to secure this nation, okay? From mainly internal threats, but even external threats, okay? So when that is not happening, and those institutions are appointed by the government, they are there, they're operating, and whatever they do, the government must be able, and they have capacity to know, because they get briefings on a daily basis from NIS. So when certain things happen, we who are not part of government, we are left with one conclusion, that either the government knew through an intelligence system, or if they didn't know, then those who have been given responsibility to manage those particular units have totally failed. And if they have failed, they should have been fired. But let me say this, the consequences of allowing these groups to operate unchecked are dire.
Is it fair for the government? Is it fair for the government?
They are dire, Fred. Because what will happen? You create fear and despondency. Okay? When you do that, what happens? What is likely to happen? Immediately what happens is that investors who are either already operating from your country, from your region, from your jurisdiction, or who intend to come and invest will, of course, shy away, because the first consideration for those people, for those of us who have worked in private sector, other than macroeconomics issues, one thing we look at is the stability, security of that destination that we tend to do. Right. You can imagine what will happen to a tourist when they see, when they read some of these incidences that are happening. Okay? So it is not something that we want really to take lightly. It is something that will affect this country, and we are told that it is on the growth trajectory. But if these things are allowed to happen, I can assure you we'll take a nosedive.
The return of Mungiki, that's a big headline on the front page of the People Daily. And because of time, kindly allow me to move on to the next discussion. And this has to do with the politics of the day. We've come from a very busy political weekend. One of the biggest political events of this past weekend was a visit by the former deputy president to Martha Karua, the leader of Na Kenya Party. We do have that story packaged by one of our reporters. Let's watch that story briefly, then come back and discuss the main headlines, which is coalition shopping on the front page of the Daily Nation, mitego mbele ya Ruto, habari kuu kwa ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo. And even on the Star, they talk about the sugar politics and how that will play out come 2027.
Saturday morning, Na Kenya Party leader Martha Karua was at hand to receive special guests at her Gachagua home. Former Deputy President Gachagua, his wife Pastor Dorcas, accompanied by a host of leaders, came here bearing special gifts for a special occasion. The gifts, which included sheep and having a deep culture significance of seeking truth where mistakes were committed. And after the deliberations, it was clear that Karua and Gachagua were going to come together in unity of purpose to call out President William Ruto's leadership.
That we are not scared and we cannot be intimidated. Because if we buy fear, this country will be in a very big quagmire. So I want to encourage the leaders who have accompanied me here. My elder sister, we shall benefit a lot from her counsel. We'll consult her regularly alongside other Kenyans of goodwill.
The duo also agreed to unite in closing the political divide facing the mountain and seek new alliances ahead of the 2027 general election.
Let us consult widely, even with the others. Feel free anytime to reach out. Let us caucus together and let us work for this country.
Part of their strategy includes rallying Kenyans to register as voters and mass seemingly to take advantage of the Gen Z wave, which has seen the young Kenyans largely against President Ruto's administration, both off and online.
The actual transformation of this great republic will be on the ballot. The public awareness on smartphone is good, A1. But the real transformation, the final transformation of getting a good country with good leaders will be on the ballot.
While addressing members of the press, Gachagua dismissed Ruto's political theatrics of branding him a tribal leader, maintaining that if the mountain was tribal, then President Ruto couldn't have gotten votes from the area in the previous 2022 general election.
We also proved that we are people of honor and we keep promises. That to me is the importance of the vote of 2022. And I can assure you today, other Kenyans wants to work with us. Nobody can isolate us. Everybody wants to work with us because we are honest people.
The coming together of the former foes turned friends comes days before the former deputy president is set to announce his political direction, with Martha Karua also set to launch her new People's Liberations Party. The new alliance is already causing ripples within the political architecture within the Mount Kenya region, with Tharaka Nithi Governor Muthomi Njuki telling off any politicians in Mount Kenya harboring plans of coming up with a new political vehicles for the region, insisting it is premature debate. Speaking in Meru, where he was the chief guest at a cultural event that brought together Meru and Tharaka Nithi counties under the theme of two counties, one people, Governor Njuki said it would be shameful that other parts of the country are thinking about developing their regions, while reports from the larger Mount Kenya region focus on political squabbles and how to solve them.
For now, let us try and focus on delivering for the people as leaders. Let us demand from our government what they promised us during elections. Wakati wa kuunda chama na kufanya siasa itafika.
Paul Kirobi, TV47, Nairobi.
While that was happening, President William Ruto just completed his week-long tour of Kakamega and the western part of Kenya, where sugar debate became big. The cartoon behind me is a cartoon on the Standard. It talks about whether or not the president is engaging in early campaigns. Many pundits say that his trip to the western part of this country was indeed a campaign tour. So, Senator.
Yes.
Opinion is split on whether it is too early for this reorganization, this heated debate, coalition shopping, 3 years to election. If you may draw comparison with what's happening in Tanzania, who are going to election in October this year, you look at their dailies and political headlines on the front pages, small highlights on the corners, not the main story. But you come to Kenya and we're already having faces and pairings of who's doing what when. Is it wrong? And do you think, like when Governor for Tharaka Nithi said, it's a bit premature?
I will answer that question on early campaigns, but let me go systematically because you started with the story of Gachagua. Gachagua has his own way of doing politics. And it's unfortunate that his way is not a national way of doing politics. It doesn't have a national outlook. And you can see every time he's talking, he's losing more and more people. Let me tell you. And the fact that he served as a one-term member of parliament and then the deputy president is showing. Because maybe he didn't sit enough, he didn't interact enough with the rest of Kenya to know that Kenya is a big country. He's going to Martha Karua. And Martha Karua, the statement you displayed yourself here says, we must look for other people. That's what she said. Martha Karua herself, her own immediate, major, important political deed she did was to run for deputy president with Raila Odinga. So you can see these are two people who will not work together. One has come with goats and sheep so that they can create a Mount Kenya something. The other one is already telling him in his face, we must look for other people. So what am I saying? I'm saying there'll be many people, MCAs, MPs, maybe even senators, who would want to hide under Gachagua because they will gain. But Gachagua himself on the national politics, because I don't see anybody serious with national politics trying to isolate the rest of the country and only beating the drums of politics within your area and hoping that you will get somewhere. That is not how the national leaders did there. And history is there for us to see. You know, history is there for all of us to see. Starting from our founding fathers, Jomo didn't stick in the mountain. He went to look for Masinde Muliro, Noah Katanangala, Akina DT Moi. He went all over to build something. Look at Raila. Raila went looking every time he built in the past. He built the what was it? Not Watergate. The Pentagon. You know, he went looking for people. And that's the language Martha Karua is talking. It's not the language of, oh, let us huddle ourselves in this small place. So that's...
If at all the former deputy president is doing everything wrong politically, why is it irking the president and his allies so much? They seem to really be preoccupied with Gachagua's actions. If at all you can actually see the man is headed in a wrong direction and will head nowhere, why talk about him in his old tour of Western Kenya?
No, because you know, to every political action and equal and opposite action, it calls for that. So somebody will want to say something about that. That is not the only view. If someone is preaching the view that let us just huddle as Coast region, as Northeastern region, as Central region, as Nairobi, then if you give a statement, if I give a statement like that today, tomorrow somebody will say, no, that's not the only viewpoint. There's another one. So Kenya is a free country, and we should appreciate that. Let people do their thing. But I'm also saying that from previous experience, this can only benefit other people, not him. The people in the lower ranks looking for other positions, because they know if I go to my village, I don't need to go outside. I will sit here and be an MCA. I would sit here and be an MP. I will sit here and be a senator. I will sit here and be a governor. But outside this, my party, even they know my party cannot sell. And so I'm saying, I think the two leaders, when they met, I think one is speaking East, one is speaking West, one is speaking Y, one is speaking X. That's my comment on that. And I would still want to urge all political leaders, let us fight for something that unites this country. If you feel it is the economy that is being messed up, talk about the economy. If you feel it is the road sector that is being messed up, talk about it. If it is land, talk about it. But it cannot be right today, tomorrow, any other day to say it's my region and you want to occupy a national. I have a very big problem with that. Okay. Anyway, let's go to the other issue. You were mentioning this issue about whether it's early campaigns, and I want to state this. Every time I visit an area within my county, I will do what brought me there to do, but it is a natural and obvious expectation that I will also have to use that in a particular occasion to tell them one or two things about what is happening in the Senate. That's my mandate, okay? I would also expect that if a member of parliament has come for a fundraising, if an MCA has come for a funeral, if a governor has come for a wedding, he should say something about the occasion and also say something about the mandate.
About 2027.
Okay? So let me say this. when the president is saying, you know, he gives a speech. We are going to do this about sugar. We have done this about the economy. We've done this. All that, the press never covers, actually. They never cover that. But then when he says, by the way, after we have done all this, those who are saying that they are going to fight me in 2027, prepare yourself. It is going to be a difficult thing. The press cuts the speech, and then they focus that, and then they say, oh, are we in early campaign mode? No, bring first the entire speech. You know, and then tell me that I was campaigning. But he was not.
Senator.
He was just saying the things and then telling people, I'm going to be a formidable candidate.
If I told that there's an early campaign, it is the president who started
Is it true or not that he's a formidable candidate? When I finish saying I've done this and this, I'm going to be a formidable candidate. Am I campaigning?
It is talking about 2027 and 2025 that I'm more concerned about. And the president appears to be leading that debate. That he's the one talking about his own re-election bid come 2027. It is more than 2.5 years. He's not even gotten to midpoint his first term.
Actually, Fred, it's no longer a secret that the president has done this. Because, I mean, you can see from his last weekend, this weekend where he has been in Western Kenya, he even declared that he will crush them. In 2027, I'm going to crush them, or I'm going to defeat them. You know, they better be prepared. I used some other language there that I couldn't find it useful to say in Kiswahili. But that also means, so what are these rooftop meetings every week? Are they not campaigns? Are they development of their campaigns? Because when you look at the speech, and it's okay, every 5 years we have elections. And the president, even in the last election, how he won, he actually started very early. He started very early, and I think that is his mindset, is that every time he needs to go ahead and start early. So that maybe Kenyans like it that way. Because Kenyans want to be kept busy. And I suspect Kenyans don't have anything else to do, by the way. A lot of them are actually idle, especially the young people who have no jobs. And so if you want to involve them in something now, it's the politics. And it's going to be a very serious matter because we're not going to address the plight of those young people. Instead, we want them to fill our rallies. And now, by the way, the problem with politics is that now when Mungatana goes to a church, the church fills up suddenly, not because those guys want to come and worship, but they have seen Mungatana there. And that is how young people are going. They're going after this kind of opportunities. And I just want to ask this way. Are we dealing with the crux of the matter, which is that the young people are not employed, that the older people are economically deprived, and that they have absolutely little to do? So it's very easy for us to occupy them in politics, the excitement of 1 day, 2 weeks, 1 week. But when you have left that area, what really happens in that area? So yeah, I understand Tanzania is going to have elections this year. But Tanzanians have a way of saying, don't start early elections. There's a moment when you can be released to start elections. Uganda has the same. In Uganda, by the way, it's the same year as election. That's when you really are allowed to go and campaign. Because we should be able to be given a certain amount of time so that we don't occupy our people all the time in a political situation until they can't do their own things. Because to be creative, you need to be left alone to do your own things. But every weekend, we are asking people to come to the rallies. Every weekend. It's by the opposition, by the government, it's everybody. And I give this case, I give the case of West Pokot, my own county, where every weekend, campaigns are going on as though elections are going to be held at the end of this year. Because people think the best way is to start early. Best way is to put your name out there and start early. But they are putting the people into action, which is not going to help those people to solve their problems. Yes. Right now, schools have opened, secondary schools. Kids cannot go to school because there's something about the bursaries that's not happening. So they have no schools actually kicking students out. So if we go every weekend to, those people will be in our rallies, but are we solving their problem? The parents will be in our rallies, but are we solving the economic problem? We're busy campaigning for this shisha, whatever it is. enroll, and yet schools are out. School fees is not there. Scholarships are not there. The government is actually, I'm telling you, this is a very serious matter. So politics cannot be a priority. Telling people about forming parties now and so on cannot be a priority. In any case, parties can be formed quietly. Why should they become part of the national debate? You can form your party quietly and please allow the people to start looking at their own problems, which are many.
So on one hand, the president says he's not in campaign mode, and the cartoon on the Standard appears to show him that he's already running, he's off the line, and he's already running way ahead of his competitors. Campaign mode, he asks, brace yourself for real campaign when we start. That's what he says. But if you look at the front page of the Daily Nation, it's not just him, everyone else. All these faces there. I can see even the former president, Matiang'i, Kalonzo, Omalo Kijana, Gachagua, Martha Karua. Everyone is thinking about 2027. It's not just the president, Bwanakisi.
Thank you, Fred. I think if I were the president, I would immediately appoint Mugatana as the Minister for Information and Communication. Immediately. Because this man, at least, is able to convince us to a certain extent. And the way he raises issues is fairly diplomatic. So if the president listening, please, don't waste your time. You have a minister here who can do that job very effectively. But let me say this. The issue of early campaign. You know, the president has a job to do. His campaign should be seen through the job that he's doing. You look at my president, Emeritus Mwai Kibaki. He never used to go on the rooftops, but his job campaigned for him. The job spoke for him. But I have a president who is my friend, who believes that Kenyans are so stupid, that Kenyans don't even appreciate anything. And Kenyans, if you are working, people will see you. The job of opposition is to follow you and mark your exam. If you are failing, don't think they will tell you have passed. They will tell you have failed. And that is what we are doing as those in opposition. The issue of, and my friend Mugatan talked about, Rigiji doesn't have a national outlook. Who in Kenya has a national outlook? Who? Not even my friend William has a national outlook. He focuses, and that is what won his campaign. He went to his backyard, got votes, spoke to his people, got votes, spoke to Rigiji and the people in the mountain, they got votes, and that's how they got into power. And in any event, if you look at the preamble of our constitution, it talks about building blocks, that the unity must start at the family level. If you are there fighting your children, you are fighting your wife or wives, it's chaotic. How do you even as a community will have unity? How shall we attain unity at national level? So what these people are doing, there's nothing wrong, so long as you use that energy positively. Again, you talked about fairness and equity. My president and good friend was in Western Province. Thank you for coming there and looking for votes, early campaign. But, what really annoyed people, at least me, because I was talking to people from Western Kenya, and they were saying the president came here. He's launching projects. Launching projects. That is campaign. He should be coming to commission projects that have done this job. Here you are. I'm giving you the key for this hospital. I have built this road, but not I will build. What is more even annoying is that those so-called projects that he was launching in Western Province are not budgeted for. We know Western Province, Western region has 200 million for roads in maintenance. Then we have one constituency in Central Kenya with 1.2 billion. Is that fairness? Is that equity? Now, when you look at Mumias, it's even more annoying. My good friend, the President of the Republic of Kenya, went into a company that is under receivership. It's under receivership, my brother. It's being run by a company called Sarai. And then he says that a company under receivership has declared bonus. This is a case study for Harvard School of Business. That a company that is under receivership can actually declare profits and therefore bonuses. But from where I sit, I've asked my good friend, the president, to produce financial statements for Mumias for the year 2023-2024, which will show us that this company made profits, and therefore the board made a resolution to give its partners, strategic partners, bonuses. But in the absence of a financial statement, that becomes a political statement. Finally, on that matter, my brother, Fred, the president keeps on lying. And you know, nowadays, with information technology, with our children, the Gen Z, when a whole president says that we've not imported sugar, if you look at our estimates for sugar importation, for the shortage, you know, we import about our requirement is about 1.2 million metric tons of sugar, industrial sugar and sugar that you people consume in the homes, okay? About 200-something metric tons, 200,000 metric tons are industrial. The others are for domestic consumption. Now, look at it this way. If you go and look at our requirements, it's about still about that, 1.2, 1.3. If you look at what we are likely to produce in the financial year 2024-2025, there is already an estimated shortage of about 455,000 metric tons. That is our shortage. Now, when a president tells Kenyans that, you know what, we have done so well, we have not even imported sugar, yet we know, because we are not fools, Fred, we are not stupid at all. We know that sugar has been imported and repackaged. And this has been going on. And now, as a person who has roots from Western Kenya, I was hoping that the president, whose background is known, is like us, we are coming from poor backgrounds, that he would have uplifted the poor, that he would have been more truthful in the way he communicates, in the way he does things. But ole wangu. I mean, heavy mobilization was done, and my people are very happy. They at least got, they are very happy, they got 1,000. But I've now told them, I've advised them.
They got 1,000 shillings each.
Yes, I have advised my people, okay, to demand for 3,000 shillings attendance fee next time. Okay. Not 1,000, Bob.
Yes, a final word.
Can I say something?
Just a parting shot. We're out of time.
Yeah. Can I say something? Everybody knows a company that is in receivership can have operational profits. It doesn't mean that you have... so Kenyans listening to me, you also need to know the truth, that a company can be in receivership and it can still declare operational profits, and that the payment that was done for the sugarcane farmers was in fact in order. I also need to clarify something else, that in this country, this year, we did not import sugar. That is what has been happening continuously. This year, we didn't import sugar, we did import maize. Why? Because the management structure of production and sugar production industry was changed, and the for maize, we had a bumper harvest, and the government programs of fertilizer, the fertilizer campaign, reduction of that from 7,000 to 2,500 yielded, because we increased the accessibility to farmers. Now, since you are saying we are out of time, are you saying this is the... Let me just say...
You're the only one actually who can give us a parting shot.
Let me just say this.
Kenyans
listening to me, there is a company called Moody's agency. It is an old company, global risk rating company. And it has been in existence for 115 years plus. And this company is the one that is used by World Bank to rate countries. Kenya has been moved away from high risk, and it has been given a positive rating. Okay, this tells you, and some of the things that were mentioned were like managing the debt, stabilization of the currency. Mm-hmm. We are saying we are, despite all our local politics, the country has taken
there are some positives.
A positive turn, and the world is seeing Okay. So even if you are quarreling with your wife about, oh, you are not a good man, but outside people can see you are taking care of your family and whatever, it means you just learn to live with your wife.
Asante sana.
But you are making a positive
Tana River County
step forward.
Philip Kisia, leadership and governance expert, who was also served as town clerk of this great city of Nairobi, and Samuel Pogisio, Senate Majority Leader at the 12th Parliament, also Minister for ICT in the Kibaki II administration. Very interesting headlines. Today we started off with the new State House outlook. People are not liking it. Politics, and of course the resurgence of the Mungiki sect. After the break, Monday Blitz coming up. All the weekend sports, including what happened to the Sevens rugby team and more. So do stand by for that. My name is Freddie Ndimuli. Have a lovely morning.